I'm going to share a story with you that's really hard to believe, but it's true, I swear. I'm a forest ranger and I live in a small town near Yellowstone National Park. One night after a long day of babysitting tourists and filling out mounds of paperwork, I knocked back a few of my favorite beers and hit the sheets. Nothing special. That was when it happened. It started with a knock. I'd been lying in bed, wide awake and half drunk, just staring at the ceiling for what felt like hours. Insomnia has a way of stretching time, making everything feel sluggish and heavy. At first, I thought I was imagining it, the gentle tap, tap, tap coming from the front door. My house was older than dirt, and it wasn't uncommon for the wind to make the walls creak or the windows rattle. I brushed it off. But then it happened again, louder this time. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up, instantly alert, my pulse quickening. It was 3:14 a.m. Who the hell could be at my door at this hour? I didn't have any friends who'd show up unannounced, and my neighborhood wasn't exactly one where people wandered around at night. I swung my legs out of bed and grabbed the robe hanging on the back of the chair. I tied it tightly around me, more for comfort than warmth, as I padded down the hallway toward the front door. Each step felt like I was wading through molasses, my body weighed down by a mix of exhaustion and unease. When I reached the door, I hesitated. Something felt off. There was this stillness. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and you just know something's wrong? That's how I felt standing there, my hand hovering over the doorknob. The usual sounds of the house, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant ticking of the wall clock, were gone. It was like the world outside had just stopped. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Knock, knock, knock. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Standing on the front porch were two children. They couldn't have been older than 10, maybe 12 at the most, a boy and a girl. Their clothes were strange, like something out of the 1950s. Plain, old-fashioned coats and shoes scuffed at the toes. They were just standing there, staring up at me with these weird, blank expressions. I forced a smile, though every instinct in my body was screaming for me to slam the door shut. "Can I help you?" The girl stepped forward first. "We need to come inside," she said, her voice low and monotone. I frowned. "What? No, it's the middle of the night. Where are your parents?" The boy spoke this time, his voice a mirror of the girl's. "We need to come inside. Please let us in." Something about the way they spoke sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't just their words, it was the way they said them, like they were reciting a script. Robotic. Mechanical. "I'm sorry, but I can't let you in. I don't even know you. Where do you live? I can call someone for you." My voice was shaking, and I didn't even try to hide it. That's when I noticed their eyes. I hadn't really looked at them before. My mind had been too focused on their strange demeanor, their old-fashioned clothes. But now, as they both looked up at me, I saw that their eyes were wrong. There were no whites, no irises. Just pure, pitch-black orbs, like their sockets had been filled with ink. My breath caught in my throat. I instinctively took a step back, my hand reaching for the door to shut it. But the girl's hand shot out faster than I expected, and grabbed the edge of the door. "Please, let us in," she said again, her voice now tinged with something that sounded almost angry. "No," I stammered, pulling the door harder, trying to break her grip. "We can't come in unless you invite us," the boy said, taking a step closer. "What?" I managed to choke out, my mind racing. None of this made sense. Who were these kids? Why did they look like that? And why did they need an invitation to come inside? They just stood there staring at me with those empty black eyes, waiting. I pulled harder on the door, finally managing to wrench it from the girl's grasp and slam it shut. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. For a moment, I just stood there, my back pressed against the door, listening. Silence. I wanted to believe that they were gone, that it had all been some weird nightmare brought on by lack of sleep. But then the knocking started again. This time, it wasn't a polite tap, it was loud, aggressive. "Bang, bang, bang, let us in!" The girl's voice shouted, louder now, more forceful. "You have to let us in!" I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet as I scrambled to get away from the door. My mind was racing. What the hell was going on? I fumbled for my phone, my hand shaking as I dialed 911. The operator answered, but before I could say anything, the line went dead. Static filled the room, the sound crackling through the speaker before fading into silence. The banging on the door continued, relentless. They were screaming now, both of them, their voices no longer monotonous but shrill and angry, like they were on the verge of breaking through. I ran to the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of something, anything that could explain what was happening, but when I looked outside, the street was empty. No kids, no one. Just the dark, still night. But the banging didn't stop. I backed away from the window, my legs trembling. I could still hear them at the door, but I knew, deep down, I knew, that they weren't standing on the porch anymore. They were somewhere else. I could feel them, watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. Hours passed, though it felt like days. Eventually, the banging stopped. The silence that followed was even worse, though, like the calm before a storm. I didn't dare move. I sat in the corner of my living room, clutching my knees to my chest, waiting for whatever came next. It wasn't until dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight creeping through the windows, that I dared to look outside again. When I opened the door, the porch was empty. There were no footprints, no sign that anyone had ever been there at all. But as I stood there, a cold breeze brushing against my skin, I noticed something lying on the doorstep. A small piece of paper folded neatly in half. My hand shook as I bent down to pick it up. Written in childlike scrawl, almost too neat to be real, were the words, "We will come back." I haven't slept since that night. Every knock on the door, every shadow that moves outside my window makes my heart stop. I know they're still out there, waiting, and one day I'm afraid I won't be able to keep them out.